Hi everyone, today I want to show you the Sand and Sea Suite from Stampin' Up. This is new in the January to June mini catalog and it is just beautiful and there's a lot to it. So rather than just show one card and how to do it, I'm going to show you a few cards so that I can kind of show you the many details to this suite of products, and I think it's gorgeous and I think that there's a lot to see that you might miss. So here we go. First off is this stamp set, of course, and it's called Friends Are Like Seashells, which is a really fun thing because, you know, you collect seashells and friends are like seashells. You collect them along the way. I really like that sentiment. It's really pretty. And there's just a lot of other things too. You've got a thank you and a for you, and you are unique and completely amazing like a seashell, and happy birthday. So there's I'm so happy I found you, wishing you. So the collection itself is kind of all-encompassing. You've got thanks and birthday, as well as just any old day. So I think that's great. And then the stamps themselves are beautiful and good for different techniques. So you've got these little filler shadows that you can use to stamp on top of the seashells to kind of give them a little color if you wanted to, or you can leave them alone, or you can use different coloring techniques. So it's kind of a fun stamp set, I think. But then they kind of took it over the top with the dies and an embossing folder. There's both. So let me show you the die because it's kind of odd. Normally a die cuts out a stamp, but this one doesn't. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. First off, let me say the stamps are larger than this picture. This is it's a big set. This is at 75%. So let me show you, for example, this stamp here is cut out with this, so you can see how much bigger it is. And I think I have it on a block, so let me find the block. I have this stamp on a block. So here you can see how much bigger the actual stamp is in comparison to the, here it is, image. It's a lot bigger. So you've got these kind of fun little stamps here that are good for textures and things, even clouds. Think of different ways you can use those, but they also work to color in the stamps if you want to. So they're a little bigger than shown. I wanted to point that out. And then I wanted to point out that the die is kind of a background in and of itself, and you can use it without the stamps because you can use it with the embossing folder. Now this folder works with the die, and they're meant to go together. So the folder has textures for seashells and kind of seaweed, sea grasses and things. And so you cut out your paper with the die, and then you can leave it as it is, or you can run it through the embossing folder, which is going to give it all this additional texture. So here I wanted to show you the cutout piece flat, and then if you wanted to, you can stamp the stamped images do fit, so you can add the shell detail if you wanted to with the stamp. And they're photopolymer stamps, super clear, so it's easy to get a nice lineup with those stamps, and you can do that with, there are some stamps for all of those shells. Here's this one, and this one, and there's one for that one as well. I think it's right here. So you can stamp all of your individual shells if you want, or you could run it through the embossing folder, which is going to get at these shell details, and then you can do different techniques with that as well. So the cards I'm going to show you show off the folder and the dies and what you can do with them. And there's more to this collection. If you notice this paper, it might be hard to see on video, but it has a shimmer to it. It's pearlized, and it's called Pearlescent Specialty Paper, and it's just really pretty. So imagine some seashells. She sells seashells by the seashore. I'm getting myself all tongue twisted, but anyway, it's really pretty, really pretty paper. And then there's even more. There are stickers which are printed on pearlized paper, so they have a shimmer to them too, and I don't know if that shows in the video, but they have a shimmer to them. They're a soft pearlescent kind of shimmer. Now there's also some where are my little dots? Here they are. These are called opal rounds, and so they have a little kind of opalescent mother of pearl type of color to them, some like glitter embedded into the little dots. Those are fun. Now there's more. There is a designer series paper pack. Now this paper pack is amazing, and both sides. So you're going to want to look at this. I put these aside. I put one of each paper aside so that I wouldn't cut them up, because I was worried that I was just using the set and playing with these all day today, and I wanted to use up as many different options. And then I thought, oh no, what if I use up all the paper and I can't show you? So look at this one. I thought this was so pretty, and I don't remember what this is called, this particular thing. Sand dollar? I don't think so, because it's like puffy. I've seen them, and I think we even have one. But look at the back. So pretty. Now, if you've come to my site before, you know I love watercolor, so I can imagine trying to achieve this texture myself with some watercoloring, and that is really fun. And I just love the softness of this, the colors, and it's just so beachy and so pretty. Now here are some shells, and they've kind of colored them like I was alluding to in the beginning, where I was saying you could use these kind of shadowy, I don't know, swashes of color. That's kind of how they've colored these in, so you can get an idea of what that would look like here. And these are not, sometimes Stampin' Up! Has paper that can be cut out with the dies, but these cannot be cut out with the dies. The size is completely wrong. Let me show you. See? You're not cutting that out with the die. Completely the wrong size, but that's okay. These are really large, and you get a ton of these shells on here, and I cut a bunch out for the projects I'm going to show you in a minute, and they were not hard to cut out. They're kind of just swoopy cuts and not a lot of in and out, so they were really easy to cut out. Here's the back of that one. Doesn't that look nice? It's like sand. It really does look like sand. I mean, seriously. Okay, then this one has little sea stars. So cute. And then the back. Look at this one. I just love this color. Okay, and then that. Really pretty. Same kind of colors, but really pretty watercolor technique. And the back of this one, all those sand dollars. So cute. And then here we've got like waves. And then nice little dots in all the colors that we've used. So this is a great accent piece. And then here's another wash of color. And I just think that's beautiful. And then the back of that has some little shells. So it's just a really, I think, beautiful designer series paper. And it was kind of, I really like every single page. I don't dislike a single one. It's hard to even pick a favorite, but I really like this. Like, how would you choose what to do it on, you know? It's so pretty. And then the back's also gorgeous. So that's the paper collection. And then it goes with the stickers, which go with the pearlescent, and it just goes on from there. Okay, so I think I caught everything in the collection. I've got the papers, the stickers, the dots. Yes, okay. So in the catalog, when I first get a brand new set, especially a big one like this, it's got a lot going on, one of the things that I like to do is try to recreate the cards that I see on the page. And then I kind of branch out from there. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to point out different things about the cards. I'm going to first show them to you. I kind of changed them up slightly based on what I have. But here's my take on this one. It's a little different, but we'll show you how to achieve these things. And here, this one, it's a different take on that. This one I made myself. So that's branched out on my own on that one. This one is a little bit like this one, but I changed it up a little bit. It's kind of nice to change up a card and make it your own. Here's that. And this one I made my own, but it's based kind of on this one. And then this cute little tag based on this little tag. And then I know I had another one. Where did it go? Oh, and here's another one. So I want to show you how to achieve these cards. We're not going to make every single one because then the video would be really long, but we're going to make enough of them so you can see the different ways to use the dies and the embossing folder and the paper. Okay, so we're not going to do this one together, but I want to show it to you. Here are the stamps cut out. Now, if you saw on this die, you don't see the Sea Star or the Sand Dollar. And there is, somewhere, they do give you additional dies that cut out some extra things like the Sand Dollar, even though it's not in the folder. And then you've got some of the little seagrasses, this one, and you've got dies for those. So you do end up with dies for all the images, whether they are incorporated into the large die or additional dies on the side. So I want to point that out. So that's how I got this, these two. And actually, I mostly hand cut out a lot of these shapes because I just wanted to be quick about it. So I love this background paper. So pretty. And here are those pearlescent opal rounds, they're calling them. So nice. Okay, so there's that one. We're not going to do that one together. Let's see, what else are we not going to do together? I think we're going to do all the other ones, aren't we? Well, we're going to do them fast. I promise you that it's not going to be too long of a video because I really do want to show you all of it. So I did a lot of stuff ahead of time. So I think the first one we're going to work on is this one. And this one is really simple. It's using the embossing folder itself, and then the images here were cut straight from the paper. So here's what I have left of the paper, and I cut a whole bunch of shells this morning and just cut and cut and cut and cut until I had used a lot of the paper. And even though I still have a lot left, I did several cards with it. I did, you know, many cards using all the little cutouts, and I still have a pile of cutouts, and I just haven't even touched the surface of what I can make with all these little shells. So let's start with this one. The background I'm using here is Seaside Spray, which is an in color that's retiring in June. So you want to grab this before June. It's a beautiful color, so soft, and I really like it a lot. So I'll be sad to see that go. And then we've got another piece of Seaside Spray. This is cut to be a matte piece, so it's a little bit smaller. It's 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so now we're just going to take our embossing folder and we're going to place the paper. I cut it smaller than the actual die, so you want to move it to where you like it. I wanted to get most of the shells in here, so I'm going to put it like this. And I'm going to run it through. Now this is a thicker embossing folder. It's one of the 3D embossing folders, so make sure you use the correct sandwich for that. Okay, so we've got our embossed image. Now it's really pretty, all done just like this. But you can do a few different things to this to make it pop even more. You can do what I'm going to do, which is rub some white craft ink on it, and it's going to make the parts that are sticking up, it's going to give them even more of a highlight. You can also use a darker color, like I'm going to use white, but you can rub a darker color over the top, and that'll give it a different look. Or you can even use our shimmer paint and rub that over. And I'm going to show that as well, but I'm going to do that separately. So here's some white craft ink, and I'm going to sponge some over the top. Okay, now see how when I did that, you really saw the detail in the leaves, and it really pops up the shell. So it just kind of brings more depth to your image. And I'm just going to layer this onto a piece of Marina Mist. So I'm copying from the catalog, and they used a piece of this sand kind of designer series paper. Let's put that down in the middle. And then they have some of, I think they used some colored baker's twine, or maybe they dyed it themselves. I'm going to just stick with white in an effort to save a little bit of time. and keep things a little simple. Now I like to put some adhesive across the back just to keep my lines when I'm doing a multiple line thing. I want to keep the spacing nice and even. I don't want them to shift. So I usually add adhesive to the back while I'm wrapping it. And it just really helps to put them where I want them to be. And now we'll go ahead and put this on our card. Actually, let's use, I think I wanted to use some dimensionals to pop it up a little bit. And then in the interest of saving time, I went ahead and already stamped "You are unique and completely amazing," and I'm going to put that up on some dimensionals as well. Okay, now I put my adhesive in the middle because I want to be able to tuck some shells underneath. So I'm going to grab some of these that I cut out. And see if I can find some that I like here. Now I want to point out that I cut out ones that even when they hung off the side of the paper, and you're always going to have some images that don't quite make the whole image, but I cut them out anyway because if you're going to tuck them under, nobody will be able to see that. And so I don't mind when it's missing bits and pieces. Like here's kind of part coming off of that one. Let's see what else I can find. Something yellow perhaps. And something blue. Okay, so you can decide how many you want to add to yours. Just keep going or stop. And there is our first card. Now, you can also decorate the inside, and I'm not going to do that because I want to keep the video shorter than making, because we're making so many cards. But here's a way to decorate the inside, and here's how you can also use those shells that got cut off. So you can use those and put them on the border. Okay, so that is our first card. Next, I want to do this one, and this one is showing a wash background, and I love doing wash backgrounds, so I want to show you that one step by step. Now, if you're going to use watercolor on your cards, you want to make sure that the cardstock you're choosing can hold up to that. So with Stampin' Up, there's a couple choices. You can go with our watercolor paper, or you can go with this shimmer white, and I'm going to go with the shimmer today. Now the shimmer, it's not watercolor paper, it's perfectly smooth, but because of the added shimmer texture that they put on top of that, it gives it this coating that can withstand your watercoloring. So that's fun. So I like it, plus it's really pretty. So I'm going to grab mint macaron, and I'm going to grab my wash brush. This is a water painter from Stampin' Up. One thing I want to point out with the water painter is that when you fill it, you know, normally in America we do righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but these are the opposite. So if you're trying to open it, you're like, it will not open, do it the opposite way. It's kind of funny, but I can't tell you how many times people have said they couldn't open their water painters or aqua painters. Our old ones didn't do that. It's just the new style. Okay, so what you want to do first is get your cardstock kind of wet where you want the water to go. So you're just going to give a little squeeze on your barrel here, and some water will come towards the top. Now, Stampin' Up! Classic ink, which is what I'm using here, is water-based, so you can get some, mix it with water and it will work just nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and add some water to my cardstock here, just because this is where I'm going to want the water to go, or the ink to go. And now when I do it, I'm going to pick up some ink. I'm going to add some water to the barrel, pick up some ink, and go across. And you can decide how smooth or textured you want this to be. You can go fast and loose, you can be precise. I'm kind of being fast. So my edges are not straight, I'm just being fast watercolor background. Now your cardstock is going to curl with that water. So one thing you can do is when it dries, it will flatten a little bit, but if you use your heat tool, if you have one next to you handy, if you use your heat tool to flatten it, it will flatten actually quite nicely. So I will show you what I mean by that. Okay, so you see it kind of flattened out a little bit. It's going to not be perfect because it is what happens when you add the water. So go ahead, and if you need to move it around, you can. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and assemble our card. I've got a base that's also in that shimmery white. Now the shimmery white paper is not quite white and it's not quite vanilla, so I like to use them together. But when you add an accent like this one, it's good. You can see how this one's more white. I think that's okay. Or you can stamp on the shimmer and give your shell some shimmer too. That's good too. All right, so because of the curl on this, I'm going to use more of the dimensionals than I normally would, but it's okay if it curls a little bit. Your recipient is going to know, hey, this is a hand watercolored card. How cool is that? So I like to use a little more dimensionals. So I use my sides sometimes when I use bumpy or wavy, when I need more. That's a good time to use up the edges. All right, I have a lot on there. Okay. So now once you've got it down, that is going to keep it from being super wavy. All right, next I'm going to use mint macaron and I'm going to emboss my greeting. So I need my white embossing powder and my Versamark. Okay, this is going to go down right here. But before I put that down, I want to put down some of this linen thread. So when I put my linen thread down, I like to make myself a little area here of adhesive. And then I just loop it and stick it to the adhesive every so often. So I'm going to grab some and stick it down. and just kind of loop. Sometimes you can just let it loop its own way, however it wants. Okay, it wants to go that way. And then we start adding on top. So we're going to go ahead and put this down. So I've lined it up with the edge, you don't have to. Okay, so I'm going to put some flat on the card, some popping up, just so you've got some nice layering going on. Alright, let's put this guy down. Now this one's partially on the cardstock, so I'm going to add some glue there, but I am going to stick a dimensional on the bottom so it doesn't fall off. So maybe this time I'll stick this one underneath. And then let's finish it off with some of those opal round dots. And there's two sizes, so I'm going to try and use a little variety here. Kind of gives it a little shimmer. This is really pretty in person. I wish that you could see the shimmer on the shimmery white cardstock. And it's snowing and really dark in here today, so I hope that my video is not too dark. I'll try and lighten it when I edit. Okay, so that is card number 2. Now for this next one, I want to show you how to use, this is the die. So this one's all about that die. And I've already cut it out like this out of the pearl paper. So now what we're going to do is emboss it. So you're going to take your embossing folder and you're going to want to line it up so that you can kind of see through it. I don't know if you'll see it on video, but you're going to look for the shells, look for the leaf details, and get the embossing folder lined up with your already cut piece. And look what happens. Now you've got this texture. Isn't that amazing? And you can use this just like it is. It's really pretty just like it is. Or you can cut it apart. So I'm going to show you a card we're not going to make together, but I want to show it to you. This one where I cut off some of the little leaves here, the little seaweed or whatever you want to call it, and just added them as accents so you can see where I cut it from. Like here, that's this one, and then this is this one. So you can use those, or you can use the shells and cut them apart and use them as is, or I'm going to show you one where I used it with some ink on it. So here's an as is. I didn't do anything to it. And this one I stamped first before embossing it, because you need to stamp before you add that texture. So I stamped on the shell and then embossed it, and you get this. And isn't that pretty? So you can kind of see the detail a little more than on that one. And here's up close. Okay, so that's how you make this one. Oh, and just before I put this one away, I want to show you this ribbon. It's really pretty, and I saw it in the catalog sample. And I thought, where did they get that ribbon? Because I don't remember seeing a ribbon like that in our catalog. And so, you know, I like to see what they use. And luckily we have a list of all supplies used for demonstrators, so we can kind of know what was used. Here it is here. They did it on a box. So I kind of used the same idea. And what they did is they took this ribbon. Oops, it was right here. And this is from the Forever Greenery Suite. It's so pretty and soft, and it's got this like texture to it. See how? And it's a really soft ribbon, and they just use sponges to dye it with the Seaside Spray ink. So I did that. Now the Seaside Spray ink doesn't, when you use it on that ribbon is not white, it's ivory. So you can see it kind of is darker, but I think it still works because you've got some Sahara sand in here. Now I maybe would have changed this. Maybe I would have went with Sahara sand, or maybe I would have went with the flamingo, or maybe even just a darker blue, maybe a navy, or misty moonlight. Be because it's just not quite the same, but I think that's okay. And it's just really pretty in this color. So now I thought, wow, another idea is to dye this ribbon. I always think to dye white ribbons, but it is really pretty, and it kind of distresses because it's not as smooth because of the texture of this ribbon. The sponging isn't perfect, it's not smooth, and it has a really nice texture, so I really like that. And I like this. I wanted to show you that. But another way to use it, so you've got the cut it all up and use it idea. You've got the stamp on it and then emboss, or just emboss. Here we've got just emboss. But another way to add color is with our Stampin' sponges. So Stampin' Up sells a couple different sponges. We've got our Stampin' sponges like this. We've got sponge daubers like this. And then a newly added item are our blending brushes like this. Now for this particular instance, I like the sponges like this. And here's why. When you've got a sponge, I cut mine up. So I cut it into little pie wedges, and I usually cut it into 6. So I cut it into half, and then I cut that half into thirds, so I get 6. And then just take, now I have a fancy little tab punch here. You don't need anything fancy. You can just use a slip of paper. Don't feel like you need to find this particular punch. I've used many different ones over the years. And if I don't have a punch, I just will fold a piece of cardstock in half and I staple it. And that way I know, okay, this is one I use for yellows. And I don't have to use necessarily always Daffodil Delight. I can use any of my yellows. And you can get some of the yellow off on your paper if you need to remove some. And so I want to use Daffodil Delight. I'm sorry, So Saffron is what I'm going to use for my yellow today. So I'm going to open up my pad and ink it up a little bit. Now what I like about this sponge is I can get it really small. See, I can squish it up, and that way I can get in here and not worry about accidentally inking up the wrong area. So there, I've got my shell. And then I'm going to do this one. And because I can squish that sponge up, I can really get into these areas. And I really like that. Whereas if you were using the blending brush, you really couldn't do that. If you didn't cut this up, that would be hard. And even the daubers, because they're a very specific circle, it might be hard to do. Although this is pretty small, you can probably do it if that's what you have. But I like that I can squish it into a point. So I've added some yellow accents. Now I'm going to add some greens. And when you buy sponges, you get 3 in a pack. So cutting each one into 6, that gives you 18. So that's nice. And get yourself a good, make yourself a dedicated green, a dedicated yellow, a dedicated red. So you don't have to have every single color, but if you have the main colors, the ones you use the most, that's always nice to have. Okay, so now I've got my background colored, and I'm going to go ahead and attach. So first I'm going to put down a base of this really pretty paper, which mostly gets covered, so I debated it, but it adds a nice kind of undulating color underneath. Oh, I didn't mean to stick that down. I meant to wrap my ribbon around it first, but we'll do something different on this one. Okay, and then I'm going to apply some adhesive. I just like to sporadically put on some of the Tombow Multipurpose, and I like to I want to make sure to get the stuff that's going to hang off, like these. You don't want them to get snagged on the card. Okay. And then we're going to put this down. It's really pretty. And the shimmer on that pearlescent paper is really pretty too. Okay, now on this card I wrapped the ribbon all the way around. On this one we're not going to do that because I forgot. So this is the braided linen trim. I love it because the linen goes nicely with these soft colors, and it just has an earthiness to it because it's the natural linen, and I love that you can pull it apart, kind of ruin it a little bit. Now I want to make a bow since I'm not going to wrap it, so let's see how much I need. I'm going to go to here. And now I'm just going to pull this apart, and I will fast forward while I pull apart. Okay, we've totally roughed up this ribbon, so hopefully we can tie a bow with it. You know, I think it just kind of evokes fishing for some reason, like maybe netting or something like that. So you want a really loose bow. If you were to pull this really tight, you would kind of undo what you just did as far as pulling everything apart, so be careful. See, I just kind of undid this, so you're gonna have to go back in and kind of re-wreck it. Maybe I should have tied the bow first, but I think you're going to have to go in and do it anyway. So just kind of pulling it apart, and we'll stick that down. And do a little happy birthday on there. So I'm going to stick this down right there, and then I'm going to kind of bridge it because there's a knot there. So if I put a puffy on either side, a dimensional, I call them puffies. Someone at Stamp Camp called them something else, and now I can't remember what she called them. Did she call them a bridge? Stephanie, if you're watching, tell me what you call these puffies. I call them puffies. Everybody called them something else, but there was somebody at Stamp Camp that called them something else, and I can't remember. Anyway. There we go. You can rough that up. If you made it too big, you can cut it and trim it and do some more. So there is your fun little birthday, and it's really pretty and soft. This is a really nice one. And again, you can do the inside if you choose. Here I put stickers on the inside because the stickers are pearly also. And so I've got some nice stickers in there. Okay, so now I want to do some that I made up on my own. And it's going to be these two. Oh, I want to show one more thing first. Alright, here's a little scrap. I wanted to show this because it's important for you to know. I'm going to take, let's see, what color did I want to do that? Maybe soft suede. Okay, I'm going to stamp on this pearly paper because I want you to see how you can cut parts of it out, and I also want you to know that it's slick, so you can easily smear that. So give it a moment before you touch it, or maybe even heat set it, which is what I'm going to do because I don't want to waste your time with the video being too long. Okay, you want to heat set it. If you had touched it right when it was still wet, maybe I can show you that. You would totally smear it. I didn't have a lot of ink on there, but it would smear for sure. So now, let's say you wanted to just use these shells, and you say, well, the embossing folder is you know, huge like this, how do you do it? Or how do you cut out with the die when you're only using the shells? These are good questions. So one way, I'm going to do two different ways. One way would be to just go ahead and take this to your die cut machine like so. So you're going to cut around it and then cut out. But I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so now you can see that you cut it out, but it is still attached because when it was on this, you know, just like here, you've got all these different sea grasses and things. So you're going to have to trim around it anyway. Okay, so with that in mind, since I was going to have to trim around it anyway, and it's easy, you can just cut off these little parts that stick out. But I decided that it was easier to just cut it out myself. So I'm going to show you that. Okay, and then so now you've got it like this, and I think you can do just as good a job cutting out yourself. In fact, I like the one that I cut out myself better, because sometimes you have those little pointies. But then you can still emboss it. So you're going to go ahead and go over to your embossing folder, and you're going to stick that where it belongs. Oops. And then you're going to go ahead and emboss it. So you can add color before and then emboss it, or you can sponge on top to get the different textures too. But embossing it really does add those ridges. It looks really good. Here's the difference. I hope that that comes across in video. If I move it around a little bit, maybe it will. And the shine shows up more when you emboss it because it just catches the light. Okay. Now I want to show you this one. Okay, so for this one, I did a couple different things. I used, on this one, I used the paper itself to make the water and sand. But then on this one, I used stamps to make the water and sand. And I really liked that because, you know, sooner or later I'm going to run out of this paper, right? So I wanted to be able to make it myself. So I'm going to show you that. And then I'm going to show you how I did this.